Hey, everybody, it's Zach Clayton and Stephanie Samos, and we are joined by a great friend. Stephanie, I'm going to let you do this introduction because you and Tyreek have known each other a little while. So,
Yeah. So I'm really excited. Tyreek Robinson was a friend of mine from, gosh, like middle school. And we've kind of disconnected and reconnected throughout the years, but I thought it would be great for him to come on and share his story. So, Tyreek, thank you for being here.
Wow, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
so tell us, Tyreek, you have a little bit of experience, and as you know already, the group that we have started is here to try to give as many resources to people who are contemplating taking their lives. And Stephanie reached out and said, "You know what? You guys have got to get a hold of Tyreek. We've got to talk to him. You have a story to tell, and I would appreciate it if you would share with us this story."
Yeah, no problem. So I joined the military back in 2005. Um, I didn't join it for the reasons that I ended up staying in for it. That's for sure. I just looked at it as like, oh, this something I could do to help pay for school and stuff like that. So I joined in 2005. I left in 2006 for basic training and everything like that. When I came back, it was just the National Guard stuff. So I just did a couple tours, like little stuff here and there, nothing really like fighting or anything like that. Um, Back in 2009, we were activated to go to Iraq for 6 months. I ended up deploying January 2010, where I was there for about 7 months or so before I came back home. And that to me was an experience within itself. While over there, I was part of the honor guard that was over there. So we dealt with a lot of, any casualties of war or anything like that coming through our air base. And our air base over there was actually the hub air base for the military base. So
Okay.
anytime, am I there?
We're sorry. We lost you for just a second. We
Yeah,
lost you for just a second.
yeah. Uh, so our base was basically the hub for anybody transitioning through to overseas over there. They would stop by our base and kind of go out. So anytime that there was, like I would say, a casualty, they would come through our base before going to Dover Air Force Base before going back to their house, going back to their home to be with their their loved ones or Marines or whatever the case may be. And interesting enough, the I did for the honor guard. I did about five of those before I couldn't really do anymore mentally. Once I found out that these uh, kids, so to speak, were between the age of 18 to 23 years old, and they were all suicides. They were all suicides over there. I think at that point in time, my personal opinion on everything is that you know, especially at the army at that time. Like I was in the Air Force, so like I had a lot of friends with the army. Like I spoke with a lot of them. They were being uh, so they would have like 11-month deployment, and then they were getting extended, and being away from your home at that time, being away from your family during those holidays and stuff like that. That kind of wears and tears on people, and that's when they were just deciding to just take their own life. A friend of mine who actually went to school with Stephanie, too, probably David Haney. He was out there. Um, he was out there. He was supposed to have been gone, I think, 11 months, and he was in the going for like 22 months or something along that stint because they kept extending and kept extending to where his mental was even messed up with that as well. So it really played a lot of part in not being home with your families, and you're there for holidays and things like that. Like it really took a toll. So for me personally, seeing this, these young children, so to speak, kind of giving their lives at that point in time. And, when you're in the military and you're hearing stories back at home, like, they're like, hey, everything's fine, everything is good. And it didn't sit too well with me because it wasn't, because, like I said, we were still sending bodies home, and it wasn't a good feeling to me. You know what I mean? So personally, that's when the military really turned, and like for me, it became more of a dislike for like government politics and more love for the people of America, so to speak, because it was like I would love to fight for them any day. They can call me right now, being that I just had a kid, doesn't matter. I would go. But when it comes to the government side of it, because they didn't really seem to care about, you know, us as, military personnel that was out there, for everybody who kind of gave their lives at that point in time that I saw. I can't really speak on anything that anybody else didn't see, but from what I saw, it was very, 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 very tough at that time. Um, so then I came home, like I said, about 7 months later. They did have some programs that was trying to help out veterans that just came back, kind of transition into your like normal life, I guess. So the normal lifestyles and things like that. And for me, I was messed up. I was really mentally, I was really beat up. I had PTSD when I came home. I had like a lot of like issues, so to speak. Um, I went to the VA. I had tried to get all this help. I saw counseling and stuff like that, and they did help out when it comes to things like that. When I did come to say to them, "Hey, listen," whenever there was a compensation part of it, they were like, "Oh no, it's not service connected, so we can't really do anything for you." And I just thought that was kind of mind-boggling to me because I was perfectly fine before I went to Iraq. Then when I came home, you know what I mean, I had all these issues. So I just kind of just barreled through that and kind of just, stuck my focus. And I did, honestly, about a year later, had my own little issue where I almost took my own life, so to speak, for the depression and everything that I was going through and all the inner side demons that I was kind of going through. And I see the difference between myself and somebody who actually takes their life is that they're past the point that I was getting to. So like, for me, there was like it was like a dark moment where it was like, when I tell you I'm not that big of a religious guy or anything like that, but it was like almost like a fight between a devil and an angel like playing around in your head. And for me, fortunately for me, I was able to like grasp myself back to it and just call help. Like I called the cops and say, "Hey, listen, y'all gotta come. I'm about to do something stupid. I just want to, I just want help, so to speak." So they was able to do that for me, and I was able to, from that point, get more and more counseling. And I didn't think counseling would work, but let me tell you, it worked. Um, Doing a lot of self care because I didn't really have self care. Like everything that I was doing was for other people and other things, and it kind of put yourself on the back line. So which isn't good. It's not good. You got to be able to love thyself before you can go love others and stuff like that. So once I learned that, it kind of made me strong enough to say, hey, I do want to be here. I do value my life, and and I'm just glad that I was able to make that choice then to kind of still be here today. And that's why now I try to help out as much as I can. That's why, like I said, started the whole. I had looked it up at the time. It was like 50,000 homeless veterans or something like that throughout the United States. And I said, hey, I probably can't, help them all, but if I could just feed one at a time, to me that would be helpful. So I believe it was like 2 years ago. I made all these meals for homeless veterans. I got in touch with somebody that was able to give me like, so to speak, like transitional housing for veterans that didn't really have anywhere to go, anything like that. And I drove to Newark, New Jersey, then I drove to New York to three different locations to be able to, give these guys food. And they was excited. And they was like, well, you drove all the way to New York to feed us. I was like, you deserve it. You know what I mean? Like it just felt good to be able to help out the next person and for them to know that somebody actually cared, for the things that they put, the sacrifices that they gave, whether if it had been 1 year, 20 years, whatever the case is, to me, just joining, because at the time when I joined, it was less than 1% of the U.S. population that was actually in uniform. So that to me was big enough, so, and I'm going to continue to help. So anytime you guys need anything, I'm always here for the help or whatever the case may be.
Tyreek, one of the things that you and I have a kinship on is I belong to the honor guard here in Colorado. For it's the of course it's a different American honor guard, but it's where we as motorcyclists we follow and stand guard for the funerals of those who have fallen, those who have served. So hearing that you were part of the honor guard, I was just like going, "Hey, I have something in common," and as we were joking earlier, you were school friends with Stephanie and Stephanie's husband, which means you guys were all being born as I was graduating. So, but I still got something in common. You introduced us to the organization that helped you out. Um, and it's called Hope for Veterans. Can you tell us exactly what Hope for Veterans did for you that was different than anybody else did?
Yeah, absolutely. So Hope for Veterans. I was at the time. I was transitioning, trying to find. I actually had just ended a relationship, and I had needed housing basically, and maintaining rent payments to me wasn't the issue. It was the issue of kind of getting up the security deposit here in New Jersey just isn't cheap by any means. So I was looking. I was like, there has to be an organization that can help out veterans in some way, shape, or form. So I came across them, and they assigned me a worker who had my own caseworker. And what she did was she basically took all my information down. And what they did was I found in a place, and then the place they basically gave the security deposit, and then they paid the first 3 months of my rent. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. This is great. But it didn't stop there. They also bought like a bed. They bought me a bed once I got the apartment, and then they also paid for my car to get fixed. So it was like it was very helpful at the time because for me I needed that place in order, because I had a daughter at the time, and I needed a place to be able to bring my daughter in a time of need, and they definitely I was able to get back on my feet thanks to them. So that's what they did for me, and I thank them every time I can that I appreciate someone who's out there willing to help.
So it looks like they've got and you mentioned your daughter. It says the family partnership. How did they help you not maintain's the wrong word, but maybe strengthen the relationship with your daughter?
Oh, it was very strengthening because the way that it was set up, between me and her mother was I needed to have a place of my own, basically to see time with my daughter. So we didn't lose any time thanks to that program. There was no gap, and me and that little girl is, we share a lot together. So it definitely kept our bond and together at that point in time.
Oh, this is great, and we're looking at we're sharing the website right now with people, and it looks like they've got many different s- sections on here. They've got community hope, veterans, mental health, and housing. So it it just looks like they do a lot of things, and that's fantastic. What are some of the things, Tyreek, that you focus on now that you're would you say that that is behind you, or do you say, or would you say that you still have work to do?
I believe it's always work in progress. I don't feel like it's ever 100% buried. I feel like there's always times where something brings it back. Like it's hard for me to watch certain war movies and stuff like that. Like it just always brings me back to certain things and scenarios, and it's kind of like, I just always relive that moment of darkness that I had to say I'm not going back there to kind of keep forward. You know what I mean? And I know that there's people that depend on me to be here, so it's down, but I don't believe it's 100% ever out. So I always just kind of keep, like I said, in the back of my mind, that place that I never ever want to go back to.
Stephanie?
Before we were live here, you were also mentioning how you were making a difference locally, for youth kids,
Mhm.
and you mentioned the homeless vets, but you want to share a little bit about kind of what you started because you felt like there was a need.
Yeah, absolutely. So me and a buddy of mine, we were out helping these kids like that couldn't really afford, um, to do certain things when it comes to like youth athletics and things like that. And the reason why we harp on athletics, for me personally, athletics is what kept me out of trouble as a kid. So it always kept me doing something. My mom was always like, "Hey, listen, you wanna do this, you wanna do that, you better," you know what I mean? So it was always a way to say, all right, I want to stay in sports. So we decided we want to help out kids that can't really help out for themselves and help out, any of those type of families. So we started this organization, and we what we did was we took a whole bunch of them, we trained them, we kind of kept it going, and then we ended up bringing them down to we brought them down to Atlantic City for a tournament, we brought them down to Virginia for a tournament. We got like this big house and built all this camaraderie. These kids are still, calling and texting me. They're in high school already. We were doing this. We saw these kids when they were like 10, 11 years old. And we kept with them, and they're still texting me, "Hey, Coach Ty, how's it going?" Like that to me is a greater feeling than it's good. And see kids actually get better, from the time that they didn't even know that they had it. You know what I mean? Like you see something special in them, and you are able to exploit it with them and show them like, "Hey, you got it. You could do this, that." That's a great feeling. So we got big plans on where we want to go with it, and as anybody would know, starting these things aren't easy, have maintaining your board and, everybody's participation and everything like that. Like we go out, we do events. I intertwine it with my cooking. So we try to do whatever we can to kind of raise money to be able to help these kids out. And anytime that, if opportunity presents itself, we give out more help.
Well, this is a little bit of a shameless plug, but if you guys want to learn more about either one of Tyreek's nonprofits, join us on the first Wednesday of June, because Stephanie and I are going to be working together again to assist Tyreek through our community Pay It Forward One Hope Wine fundraiser. Anytime that you make a purchase of wine in June, you can support Tyreek and both of his nonprofit organizations. So we are extremely excited about that. Tyreek, what what was the biggest thing that you found helpful, and what was one thing that you can pass on to others who are sitting there contemplating um, whether their life is worth being here or not?
Um, I would say there should be no reason. I know it's hard to say when you're dealing with suicide, because you know throughout the military we do a lot of suicide awareness classes and everything like that. Just like anything else, when you're doing any type of training online or in the classroom, is way different than the real life experience. When something's happening at that pace. It's kind of hard to kind of dig deep, but you kind of got to know like there's always a reason to stay here. And my mother, we didn't really have the closest relationship, me growing up, but she even said to me, she called me like, "Hey, nothing is worth your life. There's no coming back from this." And I know, like I said, I know it's hard. Like when you're in that mindset, nothing matters. Nothing. It's hard, to bring yourself out of it. And actually, when I went to go see help, the counselors were saying like, "We're surprised, you made it through here." And they were really interested in knowing. And I just said, for some reason, I just had to dig deep and realize like, I'm just gonna get better. Like I'm just gonna go up. I feel like I'm at rock bottom. If you're at that point, you feel like you're at rock bottom, but you could only progress. And it only gets better. You know what I mean? So you got to get these challenges in your life. So that's how I took it. Like, hey, I'm gonna get these challenges right now. I'm gonna just bear through it because I'm meant to be here for a better purpose.
I I love the way that you stated that if you're at rock bottom, you can only you can only uh, go up. You can um, when what are some of the things that you still practice today when you start to feel down?
Um, I think it's kind of funny. I was not a big like meditator or anything like that,
Yeah.
or but I find a lot of joy in a lot of things that I do. So like when I do get into these like meditations or things like that, it kind of helps calm me down and soothes me out. Whether it be working out, anything that kind of keeps me busy to where I'm not thinking about something. It makes me happy because like the gym was very big for me, because it's hard to be upset and be in the gym. Like it's hard to just be with a pout on your face and as you're lifting weights or you're running. It's kind of just like you get motivated. So I just find things to constantly motivate myself. And now being that, that was, years ago, now, especially now having kids, it becomes a whole nother aspect, because now when the kids are born, it's more for them and not for us. So I started to realize that when you're committing that act, it's a very selfish act in a way, because there's a lot of people out here, there's a lot of loved ones and everything, that that it's a selfish way to do it. So I just try to stay away from that mindset and try to think more or less like, let's be better, you know what I mean, and let's not be selfish to these kids, because they didn't ask to be here, you brought them into this world, so we got to be better. So I just think of little things like that to kind of keep me motivated.
Well, I just asked Stephanie to do something because I think that this is a personal thing. So I think Stephanie.
Well, I want to say congratulations to
Yeah.
you.
Thanks.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I just because you we are expecting someone new to our family here pretty soon. Our little group here pretty soon. But about your kids, Tyreek, congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You have another new one at home. So
Mm.
really excited that you were able to join us. I know that there's a lot going on at home with your new baby boy.
Hey, that's all I was saying while we were in the hospital. I got to make it out because I got to make this show. I'm not rescheduling. I'm going to make it happen. If I had to find a quiet room in there, I would have did it. But we was going to make it happen. So thanks again.
How would you say your progress is? Like, did your daughter kind of go on this journey with you?
No. And the reason being because I never want her to see me in that state of mind. And, to me, for my daughter, her father should be the strongest person she knows. So I try not to show any type of weakness or anything like that around her. And that's what hurt me the most when I actually went through it, because that wasn't in my mind at that time. And then when I kind of made it out of the hospital and everything, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna see my daughter is probably gonna make it better. It made it probably like 50 times worse, because I felt like I was gonna let her down. Like I was gonna do something that she didn't have, and she loves me to death. Like, so it's like there's no way that I would have been able to just go on with that. So it's definitely, I don't let her see any of that, or kind of, she won't know unless she gets old enough and she asks. you know.
I can understand that. And I love that you said, that you have such love for the people that if you were asked to go and do it again,
Mhm.
you would go and do it all over again. And just knowing how far you came and came through and out the other side, and you're still willing with the love for the people, not so much the other people, but and that's just incredible. But I think one thing, Zach, that Tyreek has in common, and we've heard before, is like that whole mental struggle with the devil angel, and really having to dig deep and get through that on your own. Um, is there anyone that kind of stands out to you that kind of helped you get to that point? Was it the counseling? Was it, if somebody might be listening in and say, hey, like, I know what he's talking about because I'm going through it. Was
Yeah.
it the counseling? Was it, finding that extracurricular activity that would get you motivated, like the gym or a hobby or something? Where would you direct them if somebody was like, man, where do I go right now? Like, how do I get through this like he did?
I would say 90% was the counseling. I lived to go to those counseling sessions week by week, and 1 hour at a time. Like I just looked forward to it. And my first session, I was like, yeah, I don't know where to start. And then, halfway through that session, I'm crying. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of like just giving everything out there. And I was like, that felt good. It felt good to kind of like tell somebody, talking to somebody all the time, they don't really have to give you any feedback. Sometimes just listening is good enough. So, just me being able to talk when you feel like you can't really talk to anybody, because anybody that's going through some type of, well, I would say me, I can't say everybody, but when you're kind of in that state of mind, like talking to someone is not always the easiest thing to do, because you don't want to be judged. You don't want to feel like you're putting a burden on anybody or anything like that. So you go talk to somebody you don't know. And I found someone genuine that really was like, hey, listen, I'm gonna listen. I got you. Like, this is what it is. And I took those steps, and everything she said to do, I did, like I said, with the self care and everything like that, and it was just one step at a time, and that's what I did, and I just felt like that was the route to go.
I'd like to ask you real quick. You mentioned that your mom and yourself, you did not have the greatest of yeah, relationships. Has that strengthened through this, or are you guys still you guys closer, but it's still not?
Uh, it was. I won't say it's closer now. I don't honestly. I don't think that she knows the whole in depth of where I was as a mental standpoint. Um, I was more close with my grandmother. She was kind of the one that kind of raised me, so to speak. So it wasn't that really didn't bring it any time closer at the time. But I mean, we're better now. Not 100% probably where we should be, but it's better because she wants to deal with grandkids and stuff like that. So you
Yeah. And then the last thing that I've got for you, Tyreek, and I wanted to ask this a little bit when you were talking about your daughter. How difficult was that to hide from your daughter?
very, 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 very difficult. And honestly, I think that also might have helped sped up the process because I just knew I just had to be good for her. Like I just knew that I didn't want her to look at me and have any doubts ever. I don't ever want her to say, "Hey, listen, you know, this guy ain't it." Like so it was very difficult. So I made sure like I was always making progress one day at a time. So when I did have her, it was regular scheduled programming, and then when she wasn't there, it was always rehabbing and getting yourself back together and getting yourself back to the right state of mind.
Um, Stephanie, do you have anything else or?
Yeah, I do. Well, that's really inspiring, and I think the way that you explained it really makes a lot of sense. And I daddy's little girl will motivate him, right? But I know you mentioned the meals for veterans earlier, and I know that you had said you started a nonprofit around that. Is there certain times a year that you focus on for that? Is it you know can you talk a little bit about that? And if somebody wanted to jump in and participate, or that maybe that's local to you,
Right.
can
So
you talk a little bit about that?
yeah, no problem. So what I did was I was trying to do it typically around the Thanksgiving time frame. If I can go, every 6 months or so, that's fine with me. Every three, that's cool. But I kind of wanted to start there. Um, I would tell you the first time that I did it, it was kind of rough. Let me tell you, I believe I fed 300 veterans. And I had all these meals in my living room all over the place. And I'm packing these things up because it was me by myself. I took off from work. I rented a van. People wanted to help out. Like I had put something out there, and I didn't want anybody's money because I don't want people to think I'm out here for a money grab. Like for me, like if you wanted to help, I was saying, hey, there's a local shop right. You could do canned goods, you could do whatever food. I'm gonna cook it and deliver it. Like that's what it was about. It really wasn't there for any type of money. I just wanted to feed these veterans. So people did it, and I thanked them to that. And driving around, and I actually got to the last place, and they had more veterans there than I had food for because they didn't tell me that in advance. So I ended up door dashing them some more food. I said, hey, no worries, you guys are good too. And like I said, and when I got home it was no better feeling than what I felt. Like
Yeah.
that day, everything was like, oh, I was success. Like it's nothing. Like you won't see a lot of it going around. I didn't really blow it up, but for me personally, it felt so good to know that somebody got fed that day that might have not had a meal that day. So it felt great. It felt real good.
You know, in we had we did a homeless veteran or just a homeless dinner at one point in time. It was right around Thanksgiving as well. And what we did was we took and we had people donate the food, as you said. And but we had local restaurants who, like, we had the Tilted Kilt that was here in
Right.
Greeley. They cooked the turkeys for us because we had
Mm-hmm.
like 7 different turkeys. We
Yeah.
had Chili's donate the vegetables, and Applebee's
Mm-hmm.
donate, and they all prepared it. And so we went and we took and we got set up. at the LaSalle Fire Department here in northern Colorado. And the only problem that we had, it was 15 below that day, and nobody was going to be out and about. And so we're sitting there. What we ended up doing on that day was taking and wrapping up all the food, and we took it to the homeless shelter, and they served out the food at the homeless shelter.
Nice.
So I mean,
Nice.
it worked out perfect because it went exactly where we wanted it to go. But
Right.
yeah, it is kind of funny, Tyreek, how sometimes you take and you plan and you think, yeah, I got this, and then all of a sudden something just throws that wrench into it. But
Absolutely.
brother, man, I got to tell you, all the love in the world for you. Doing the
Thank you. I
DoorDash
appreciate
and
it.
making up the extra. That's
Yeah.
innovative,
Thank you.
and it's thinking on your feet.
Right.
I want to thank you very much for joining us, and I want to thank you very much for introducing us to Community Hope. And uh, once again, folks, this is it's one of the many places out here that we hope to introduce you to. And if you know somebody who's struggling, don't wait. Um, Tyreek, how much longer do you think that you had before you would have tried something?
Um, I don't know. It was very thin. It was really on thin ice. Like I was at my end game. Like it was there. It was there. Like it was there. Like I was there. I thank God that at that point in time I was able to pull myself back, and able to call for help, and they came and they did whatever they had to do. And then you realize too, like when they took me to the hospital, and they put me, and I didn't really understand what was going on because I felt like they drugged me or something. I'm not really sure. Because it was like real like drowsy. I remember somebody like being next to me, and I woke up the next morning, and I'm like, "What time is it?" And they wouldn't tell me the time, and then I'm like, "I gotta go to work," and they was like, "No, you're not going anywhere." And then kind of being in that process also helped me realize like, is this really where you want to be, and is this really what you want to do, like, and stuff like that. And my family took a hit too, to be honest. Like they really felt like I could have came to them and talked to them or whatever the case was, and they put a lot of guilt on their own shoulders, which made me feel even more bad because I'm like, I don't, that's another thing I don't want to do. I don't want no one to feel bad for me or whatever I'm doing. So I kind of had to really really dig deep when it came there, but it was close.
Um, I know that this is bringing up a lot of things, a lot of bad memories, but I want to commend you on your strength, and I want to commend you on your story.
I appreciate it.
I know that due to a personal family loss, I know the way that families can still feel that way. My mom still feels guilty about an incident that happened just a few short months ago, and it's something that it's really it's hard to tell somebody that you can't lay this on you.
Right.
It's really hard to tell somebody that you can't lay this on you. They kind of got to work through it, but I know it's difficult.
Right.
um Again, I want to let Stephanie have the last word, but I want to thank you very much for joining us and really sharing your story with us, because I think that as I've said before, there's no way better to prove that there's hope out there than to hear from people who have found hope. So, Tyreek, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'm looking forward to working with you at the beginning of the month of June.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you again for having me.
Tyreek, thank you so much for sharing. As Zach was repeating your quote before, I was also writing it down that when you're at rock bottom, you can only go up, and you are an inspiration, and you showed that. So thank you for being here and sharing your story. I'm looking forward to diving in more to the nonprofit work that you're doing in June,
Absolutely.
and just thank you for your service and everything you've done.
All right, thank you so much for having me. And if you guys ever need people to talk, I got buddies that I met over there that we still talk to this day. Like I said, that was we're going on what 13 years now. And I told him when I first talked to you about it, I said, hey, listen, if they ever need somebody, would you want to share your story? And he said, absolutely, anything you need. So if you guys ever looking for anybody else to talk to, I always got one or two people that definitely want to, be able to share their story as well. Because I think hearing somebody's story, hearing somebody talk about it is actually a good thing to do. So always there.
Well, uh, we will take you up on that offer. I will guarantee you we will take you up on that offer, because this is a story that's not going to, without work, it's not going to go away easy. So, but we do thank you. Hey, everybody. Once again, you can get a hold of Stephanie by using her link tree right there. Stephanie Samo's on Linktree. And so please, anything that you want to know about One Hope Wines or any of the other work that she does, just hit up her link tree right there. And now that my mouth stops freezing on me, and you can go to my card and just Zach_Clayton. So that's formycard.net, Zach_Clayton. Tyreek, again, thank you so very much. And we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.